Welcome to NeoUnrealist. My oh my oh my. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey has, with just one photo, stuck a dagger through the heart of the rationale for Twitter and other social media companies regulating so-called hate speech on and in some cases even off of their platforms. Now, Jack Dorsey, he recently went on a trip to India and he participated in a roundtable discussion with some Indian women, journalists and activists. He was given a placard by a Dalit woman to hold up during a group photo, and it read, "Smash Brahminical Patriarchy." Now, for the benefit of anyone who may not know the context, in India, it's a cultural and religious tradition that people, by virtue of their birth, they're segregated into differentiated social groups. This system, it's a ubiquitous thing. It's everywhere. It's a formalized system of hereditary-based hierarchy. So just imagine when the Young Turks' Anna Kasparian, when she said that she's better than you, much better than you, and equated you to human garbage. Imagine that on a national scale in a nation of 1 billion plus people, where people are literally held up to be better than others because of the class they were born into. This hereditary system, it's also immutable. Whatever caste you're born into, that is what you will be to the day you die, and your children, your grandchildren, all your descendants will inherit this caste status from you. You can't marry outside your caste, in the strictest interpretation. So, at the top of the hierarchy, you have the Brahmins. They're the priestly class. Those are followed by the ruling and warrior class, the Kshatriyas. Then you have the Vaishyas. You're the skilled tradesmen, the merchants, the farmers. And at the bottom, you have the Shudras, the working class, the unskilled labor. And really, if you have a fifth class, there's people that are completely outside the system. They're solo. They're considered quote unquote untouchables. Now, if you're born an untouchable in India, even today in 2018, the odds are very good that you are literally waking up, living in abject poverty. Sometimes, a lot of the time, literally walking through human shit and piss on a daily basis. It's actually a little more complicated than the caste system, than that very simplistic summary I just gave you. But suffice it to say, the Indian government, in recent years, they're trying to mitigate the effects of this formalized system of oppression with a lot of affirmative action for the lower classes and laws protecting them against crimes. I mean, it used to be you could just go and kill an untouchable, nobody cared. But anyway, this system, it's still in effect. It's a social reality through most of India, except in the most advanced urban enclaves. There's some exceptions. There's educated people, I guess. I'd heard of this controversy with Jack Dorsey. I saw the headlines on it, and at first I didn't think much of it. But then I saw a Styxhexenhammer666 video on this topic, and it really sparked my thinking on this. And by the way, if you don't watch him already, check out Styxhexenhammer666's channel on YouTube or BitChute. He's prolific. He posts multiple videos every day. The guy's a beast. Anyway, he pointed out that by Twitter's own rules, Jack Dorsey engaged in offline hate speech. Now think about it. His holding up that placard was an explicit criticism of a core tenet of the Hindu religion and culture. What's the difference between Jack doing that and going to Saudi Arabia or Iran and holding up a placard that said "Smash Sharia Patriarchy," while he was visiting? Anyone who criticizes Islam on Twitter gets labeled an Islamophobe and risks a timeout, a temporary suspension of up to a week, or a permanent ban. Is Islam superior to Hinduism? Well, Twitter says through its spokesman that they have a public commitment to being apolitical, and they realize that the photo may not accurately represent that commitment. So, here's the thing. Twitter, everybody knows, it's an SJW enclave. It's staffed and run by SJWs, and one of the core tenets of the social justice crowd is certainly at least equality, and in more radical circles, equity. Now, if you don't know, equality is the concept that, everyone's born with the same opportunity and capacity to succeed or not, and that the institutions should take steps to ensure that everyone has a fair playing field and let the chips fall where they may. Equity is the radical extension of equality, where radical SJWs now say any difference in outcome between people of one identity or another is, de facto evidence of racism, sexism, homophobia, or any number of other isms or phobias, and no differences in outcome can exist even if extraordinary state or institutional intervention has to be done to achieve it. So, as an example, if half the STEM employees in tech companies at Silicon Valley, they are not women, then by God, there will be 50% representation, whether the women want it or not. It's not good enough that a woman can go into a STEM field and get a job at a tech firm under the equity paradigm. No, no, no. There must be a minimum of 50% of women in STEM jobs at every tech firm, or it's sexism. Never mind that not enough women choose to go into STEM fields despite all the programs and encouragement to do so. The result of less than 50% women in tech jobs, it's unacceptable. So Jack Dorsey, he apologized ultimately for holding up this sign, but one has to ask, why did he apologize? Is he somehow saying he's ashamed of, or that it's right that a child born into the Untouchables caste should grow up, live, and die walking through muddy puddles of his own and other people's bodily waste, with no hope of ever getting out of that muddy hellhole ghetto with piss and shit running everywhere, even inside his corrugated tin or cardboard shack made out of garbage? Is Jack Dorsey really going to apologize for criticizing the system that says little kid born into a slum, drowning in his own shit because of the accident of his birth, has to be kept in that artificial classification, doom himself and his own kids to a life of, crap squelching between his toes when he walks? This is why Twitter's bullshit, their rules. Because they're not apolitical. If a conservative could criticize aspects of Islam, like Sharia law, female genital mutilation, the requirement of women to cover their heads or faces with hijabs, the codified persecution of gays in Sharia law, the persecution of apostates, people that want to leave Islam, for which the ultimate sentence under Sharia law is death, and on, just a litany of illiberal, regressive practices and beliefs that go on under the banner of Islam. And, if you talk about that, it's often deemed hate speech, and accounts engaging in that on Twitter do so at their own peril. Now, Jack criticized an aspect of Hindu religion and culture. It was tweeted out on Twitter. It's been seen by millions now. And it's a criticism that would likely offend hundreds of millions of people in India. So why wasn't he disciplined in any way, shape, or form by Twitter? Twitter can't have it both ways. They say they're apolitical, but Jack is okay. If you don't criticize an injustice being done in India, then why is it allowable to criticize injustice in the United States? If you follow that line of reasoning, people holding up signs critical of Christianity or posting tweets critical of the Catholic Church should be disciplined, right? And for that matter, even criticism of the Westboro Baptist Church. Those guys that hold up signs saying God hates the gays. They go to funerals of dead U.S. soldiers and they protest. Now, I'm certain Twitter and Jack, they'd never say that you couldn't hold up a sign critical of the KKK or Nazis, that you couldn't post the words Black Lives Matter on Twitter. By Twitter picking and choosing what is okay to criticize and what is not, they're not apolitical. They're not even being consistent about applying their own rules in that sense. Because I'm guessing if right-wing Twitter accounts suddenly started posting tweets, of the very same words Jack Dorsey held up on that sign critical of Brahminical patriarchy or the Indian caste system in general, they'd start getting a ton of complaints about hate speech being posted on Twitter. Then what would they do? Nothing, as in the case of the CEO, Jack Dorsey? Or would they start issuing timeout, suspensions, and permabans? I think you know how this movie ends. That's all for this NeoUnrealist. Like the video, comment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to keep up with the new content. Now, if you want to help the channel out by throwing in a few of your hard-earned rupees, follow the links below to Patreon or PayPal, or use the tip pledge button if you're watching this on BitChute. Now, most of all, especially if you're still around at this point, thanks for watching, and namaste.